And here it is, the massive battle between three armies of Eastern Roman imperial forces against three armies of the Sassanian Empire and an army of the Eastern Roman rebels. So yes, the three armies of Sassanids, already large in of themselves, will have support by the Eastern Roman rebels against us. And though I know we're badly outnumbered going into this battle, I do have a plan. I have a strategy, okay? And that is to use my massive wing of cavalry to overwhelm the rebel forces, and then to focus on the Sassanids and to basically take them piece by piece. I do have some priests here to basically boost my soldiers' morale. Literally, they're not a very good fighting force, but they do help with morale. So I do plan to basically, going in, I have a strategy to win this, okay? And I'm hoping it's going to work. I'm going to split my forces. Here's my allies, by the way, two other armies, but look at what we're up against, okay? So here are the Eastern Roman rebels that I am going to quickly wipe their army out. But then look at this massive sea of Sassanids. I mean, it stretches for as far as the eye can see. And they have a lot of cavalry themselves. And they also do have some war elephants in here as well, as you can see right there. I mean, it is a very powerful and massive force. So I know right away that I'm going to have to quickly do something about the Eastern Roman rebels, so that way I can focus in my forces and help my allies with the massive Sassanid force. So I'm splitting my army into two so that I can surround and crush the entire army that belongs to the Eastern Roman Empire rebels, the Eastern Roman Empire rebels. Again, they are not us, they are the rebels. They are not us, they're our enemy. Okay, so I've got my massive cavalry arm hitting in a weak spot at their back. I mean, they didn't really protect their back very well, and it's pretty soft, so I'm getting some good hits right off the bat, as their cavalry was focused on kind of leading their forces, moving toward the what would be kind of like their left-hand side. So anyways, that it would be their left-hand side of the battlefield. They weren't immediately worried about engaging me. So and I've got my regular force, my ground force here on my right hand, absorbing and soaking up a lot of their cavalry and just anything else that they throw at us, and it causes them to be split. So of course, my main force being on the right hand side, if you will, my regulars, my ground force, my archers, my legionnaires and things, and then of course I have my cavalry force on the left hand, on my left hand over here, hitting them in the back, delivering huge blows that, you know, quickly remove them from the battlefield. I mean, I'm just going to say it how it is. I did crush the entirety of this force pretty quickly without taking too many casualties of my own. And at this point I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably going to be able to win this battle, because I've got this, I feel under control over here, and my allies are actually doing a pretty decent job at keeping the enemy occupied, which is exactly what I need them to do. Keep the enemy occupied, keep them split up and occupied, so that I can hurry up and you know, deal with the Eastern rebels, and then the rebels, I'm just going to call them the rebels, and then I can quickly come over here and support, okay? So like, I'm thinking I need to quickly move in to support my ally, and as long as they're over here holding their own and keeping the massive Sassanid Empire forces busy, then that's huge, you know? These Sassanids are also basically like Persians. You can look at them like Neo-Persians, basically, to my understanding. Yeah, so right now I'm just focusing on mopping up the forces that I just really just crushed of the rebel forces, the Eastern Roman rebels. And my plan is, once I have the rebel forces completely destroyed, or at least destroyed enough that they're just not a threat anymore, I can go ahead and take my massive cavalry wing, my force of combined cavalry, and start to hit the Sassanids bit by bit. I know that they're going to be split up. I need to hit them fast before they have an opportunity to regroup and create an unstoppable force. If I'm going to stop them at those numbers that they have, I need to hit them bit by bit with my overwhelming cavalry force while they are still broken up and scattered. So it is important that I hurry up and deal with the remaining rebel forces. I need to hurry up and get rid of the rebels. And a lot's going on over here. There you see the cataphracts, heavy cataphracts of the Sassanians. A huge issue. Those are basically the equivalent of a tank. Think of a very strong tank with thick armor that there's next to nothing you can really do. I mean, they're not invincible, of course, but they're a very, 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 very formidable foe. And if the Sassanians use them wisely, which they do in this battle, it can mean the difference between winning and losing the battle, and they do use them to win this battle. And so my allies are starting to flee the battlefield. While this is happening, I realized I pretty much have the rebels under control, but I wish I would have done it faster. I did it pretty fast. I wiped them out pretty quickly. A lot of my forces scattered, just finishing up the rebel forces, finishing up the mop-up operation. And the problem now I'm facing is that my forces are split up. I need to regroup. I need to get my guys, my army back in the center. I need to regroup my cohorts, my regulars, my foot soldiers back into one body, and I need to group my cavalry into a body and start going on the offense against the Sassanids. Super important. Of course, it's going to take a little bit longer for me to regroup my foot soldiers, though I don't need them grouped and on the offensive as bad as I need my cavalry to go ahead and start the offense against the now split up Sassanids. And as long as they are split up, I believe I could win the battle. So here I go. I am now attacking the weak split up Sassanid forces with my combined cavalry, and I am doing as I planned. I am taking them bit by bit, piece by piece, before they have time to regroup and hit me all at once with their massive, massive force. Of course, I've done this strategy before, and it's worked for me before, and I've slaughtered much larger armies than mine before using this tactic. Using that powerful cavalry wing, their now split up forces don't stand a chance. Here's what they do, and you'll see it soon. What they do is they get their cavalry behind mine, and they wreak enough havoc to cause panic, and the panic causes a retreat from the battlefield, and there's nothing I'm able to do to get my forces back in order. They are gone. So it hasn't happened yet, and you'll see how it happens. I push in deep, which I need to. I need to push in deep and hit as many of them as I can quickly as I can. So it is important that I push in pretty deep. I need to just get as many of them as I can dealt with before they can regroup. If they can regroup, that's the problem. And my cavalry are faster than their foot soldiers, so I do turn my cavalry around to deal with this force up here. We have a lot of soft targets up there that will be quickly overwhelmed once I get my force up there of cavalry. I have my foot soldiers now back, regrouped, and ready to deal with anything else that my cavalry can't handle. I do plan, if it starts to get too bad for my cavalry, to pull them back behind the safety of my now regrouped force. So far things are going as planned, and then they hit me in the back with cataphracts. Remember, cataphracts are like tanks. They're very powerful
for this fight.
Cavalry units. And I have superior numbers, but and there goes one of my allies' generals. But it was so devastating when they hit us in the back. We were dealing with so much at once when they hit us in the back with their cataphracts that all of my cavalry that were engaged in that far in that deep push into the Sassanian lines, I should say, just their armies, all broke at once, and they're just fleeing. I know there's nothing I could do but hope that they can get far enough away.
They have no more stomach for this fight.
Basically regroup themselves. It's not going to happen. They are completely surrounded by Sassanids, and that's basically it. The way that I was surrounded so effectively that it psychologically broke my cavalry, which was the bad thing about it, is that I still had a strong force, but they freaked out and broke, and that was it. Now all I have is my force of what you would call, I guess, regulars, my ground force, my cohort, my legionnaires. That's all I have. My cavalry, my main cavalry force, my strike force that I was using to strike deep into their ranks has just broken, and there's nothing I can do to gain control over them. They are surrounded by Sassanians. They're not going to be able to get, they're not going to stop panicking. They're going to flee the battlefield. And even if they were able to stop panicking for some reason, despite the fact that they are now being chased by enemy cavalry and also surrounded by a lot of Sassanians, you know, it'd be hard to regroup them. The Sassanians have so far taken huge casualties, and also remember, I wiped out what was basically the entirety of the rebel force, and I was able to deal a lot of damage to the Sassanids. I wasn't able to deal as much as I wanted. I wanted to do more. I didn't expect that to happen so fast, where that much of my cavalry broke after being struck in the back by the cataphracts, but they were overwhelmed and they broke. They let me down. They really did. So now it's up to the remainder of my forces to basically absorb what remains of the three armies of the Sassanian Empire. Their forces far outnumber us, and they outnumbered us from the beginning. And so far, I've done good, but that wasn't something that I was expecting, and the problem is now they are regrouping. Their cavalry unmatched, unchallenged. They have complete cavalry superiority. I did have one unit of small cavalry still, but it won't be enough to turn the tide. There they are, facing some cataphracts.
It would be better for your general to fall on his sword
and they break.
Than live another day. He is running away!
The cataphracts were something that I was planning to do, like with the rest of the Sassanid armies, you could say, armies. It was 3 separate armies we were dealing with here under 3 separate generals, was to take them out one piece at a time using my cavalry wing that just, as you saw, fled the battlefield. That was my best unit, and those guys were who I was relying on to win the battle. Basically, they were what made this
Roman honor is
strategic
intact,
difference
but our
for
Roman
me.
glory lies in
And
tatters after this
they
defeat.
were surrounded and broke because of that, thus causing us a battle. I did kill more of them. I inflicted more casualties than anyone else, my allies or any of their commanders in the battle. As you can see, the 1671 number, the 1,671 number, is how many casualties I inflicted on them, but still I wasn't able to win. I came close to maybe winning. It really just came down to my cavalry wing that broke and ran away. So, as you can see, they did win, though because they were fighting me, they definitely had to pay a bloody price for that victory. Alright, that is all. Hope you enjoyed.